morning, everybody. This is simply my way of saying, please don't squeeze my hand. Please be aware. I did cut my hand a week ago this past Tuesday. I'm not going to tell you exactly what happened, but I did cut off 4 fingers, and so I still have stitches in them, so they're a little tender. So if you could just be aware of that, I would appreciate it. But the fact that it happened, I'm going to tell you, it's the best possible outcome. So I'm very blessed. So let's start again with our affirmation together. I am available to more good than I've ever experienced, imagined, manifested, or expressed before. I've shared with you the Gospel of Thomas from 70, where it says, if you bring forth that which is within you, what you bring forth will save you. But if you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. And so what this is saying to us is that, you know, it's throughout our lives, we have been so programmed by our culture, by our parents, by our society, by our school, by our churches, by our friends, by everything, that we have a tendency to have this whole untrue idea of who we really are. And so it's saying, if you bring forth what is really within you, if you bring forth that greater truth, if you bring forth that greater reality, that's what will save you. But if you don't bring it forth, then just living in this realm of what is not true about us, that hurts us, doesn't it? It absolutely does. Now, we are in a series based on the book Life Visioning by Reverend Michael Beckwith. And I love this series. This is something that I shared with you, that we did this at our board retreat and spent about a third of our time with this, all of this awesome stuff. And it was one of the best board retreats that we've ever had. And it's impacted us individually in our personal lives, but it's also impacted us as a leadership as to what we see and in what is wanting to emerge here as Unity of Springfield. Now, what Michael shares is that he has 4 stages of what he calls the evolution of our consciousness. Now, there's many more stages than just 4, but I love because he just breaks it down into 4. And they are the victim stage, which is to me, the manifestor stage, which is by me, the channeler stage, which is through me, and the being stage, which is as me. So we started out talking about the victim consciousness, and that when we are in that state of being a victim, every victim has a huge blame story. And that blame story has everything to do with something outside of the person. And so it's you know, maybe it's God, or if you believe in the devil, it's the devil, or it's your ex, or it's your parents, or it's a teacher in school, or it's an organization, or it's the government, or it's the economy, or it's your genetics. And so a victim always is putting their power outside of themselves. And of course, you know, we want to move through that victim consciousness pretty soon. So last week, Chaz Wesley came and he talked to you about forgiveness. I did ask Chaz to talk about forgiveness because I wanted him to offer a different perspective than what I could offer. And he did a really, really great job with that. The key in moving out of the victim consciousness is forgiveness. And it's forgiveness of self. It's forgiveness of others. It's forgiveness of organizations. And, you know, the ultimate goal with forgiveness, and I know this can seem so far out there, but is just to be able to say thank you. Because in reality, we have an opportunity to grow and to expand and to release that which we are not, in order to express more of that which we are with every experience that we have. But if you're not there, that's okay. Now, what we want to get to, at least at this point, is to recognize, hey, I am blaming. I am in this victim consciousness. I want to move out of this. And so I'm not going to give that my attention anymore. You know, he said to turn the other cheek. Let's start turning towards something else. And of course, there's a lot more to forgiveness, and I'd be happy to talk personally with any of you about that. So today, we are talking about the next stage in this, and this is called the manifestor consciousness. The manifestor stage, this is an exciting stage for us. This is a fun stage for us. And it's in a vitally important stage in our evolutionary consciousness. There's a scripture that says it's God's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. It's God's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. I came that you may have life and have it abundantly. In the Gospel of Thomas, it starts at 3. Jesus says, if those who lead you say to you, look, the kingdom is in the sky, then the birds of the sky will precede you. If they say to you, it is in the sea, then the fishes will precede you. Rather, the kingdom is inside of you and outside of you. And so it's really exciting to think about, it's God's good pleasure to give us the kingdom. And I want to go back again a little bit historically and go to the culture of that time and recognize that there was huge chasms in the haves and the have-nots. And so most people were the have-nots. Most people didn't have enough to eat, didn't have food, clothing or shoes. And then here's these people, the haves, they lived in these great kingdoms. And so the have-nots were always looking at the haves, and they were coveting. They wanted what they thought that would make them happy if they could have what those people in the kingdoms had. And then Jesus comes along and he says, well, it's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. And I'm sure they're pretty excited, like, whoa, we're going to get kingdoms. And what he was saying was something so different from that the kingdom is within you. The kingdom is all around you. And although you may think it's about that something out there, and don't get me wrong, those things add to our happiness, that's for sure. But it's never been about that. And it never will be about that, because it's really about what's going on from the inside out. So this is the stage where we are moving from it's happening to me to a consciousness of by me. And this is a point that we begin to realize that we are co-creators. That, we have come into this world with a thinking mind, and that we are co-creators with God, with the divine, with source, whatever you want to call that. Michael Beckwith reminds us that it's worth repeating that these stages are not linear, that we move in and through these stages all through our life. I'm going to tell you, last Tuesday night when I cut my fingers and I realized how bad I had cut them, and I closed them, I cried. Not because they hurt. They didn't hurt at all. Poor me. I was so mad at myself for having cut my fingers because there was so much to do. And so I cried for about 10 minutes. And then you know what? I got over it. And I got over it because I do my work. And there was no way I was staying in that victim consciousness. And it was like time to, I was grateful, actually, that it was the best that it could be. So we go in and out of these stages, and sometimes we're in a number of them at one time, and it's all good. It's all okay. I think the thing that I try to say so many times is don't beat yourself up. Please don't beat yourself up. You're doing good enough right where you are. And I can tell you that I do not know one single person who ever lives in that high consciousness all the time. I don't know anybody in my personal life who stays there all the time. I don't know anybody who stays there most of the time because this is our human experience. It's our journey. And so, be easy on yourself, strive for something more, but don't please don't beat yourself up. So I want to tell you what he shares that the manifestor stage does for us, has going for us. In this stage, we begin to embody a sense of self-love, a sense of self-responsibility and accountability. Now, I'll tell you what, if you're in the victim stage and you're going, responsibility and accountability, what's that? When we start moving, and we start growing, when we start opening and expanding, it can be a little scary because so many, especially when you're first coming into a teaching like this, self-responsibility, self-accountability, I've given it out there so long. I don't even know what that can possibly look like, but it's a really, really good thing. He said, with the growing understanding that thoughts reproduce after their kind, guess what? We begin setting intentions and we begin activating them through affirmations and visualization. Visualization is different than the visioning that we're working towards. This is where the term metaphysics enters our vocabulary. You know, how many of us coming into new thought is like, oh, metaphysics, I get what that is. Now, what he's referring to here, it has a lot to do with the quantum physics. And at the quantum level, we know that the placement of attention affects that on which it is placed. That's exciting. The placement of attention affects that on which it is placed. And another way to say that is that our thoughts can form our beliefs, our perceptions, and convictions, which in turn then inform the choices and actions that become our experiences. I love how he says that. He also says, like a door opening to welcome limitless possibilities, there are thoughts that we can invite in and we can experience physical healing, prosperity, right livelihood, loving relationships, creativity, and spiritual awakening. When one is evolved from victim consciousness into manifestor consciousness, thought energy begins to be channeled into mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually healthy directions. It is ours to touch, direct, and share every moment. And we've all probably experienced this, you know, where we recognize this. Yes, 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 yes. In this stage, this is the stage in which we begin to exercise dominion over our thoughts. Who would have guessed? Who would have guessed that we actually were created to have dominion over these thoughts of ours? Because for so many of us, we were taught to think what other people told us to think. And you didn't ask questions. You just did it. Don't ask why, just do it. And in here, we're now opening up and realizing, oh my gosh, I was actually created to have dominion over my thoughts. We begin, he says, this is make it happen with our mind stage. And this is a powerful, powerful place of development. You know, we start to recognize that there are actually universal laws that are governing us, that it's not just happenstance. And one of the things that Michael refers to that's important here is to recognize, and I'm just going to say it this way, because we're going to talk more about the law of attraction, but that the law of attraction is not black and white. That there's a greater mystery to everything. One of the things that is hard for me when I hear somebody say, well, you know, what were you thinking to cause that? You know, well, how did you create that? Almost as if somebody did something wrong. And so here's how I want to say it to you is, you know, when I cut my finger, the reason I cut my finger, and the only reason I cut my finger, was because when I picked up that knife and my intuition said, don't use that, I didn't listen. I didn't cause it, quote unquote, from some thought that I had a while before. It was an accident. And sometimes accidents happen. We don't control people outside of us. But there's incredible power to the law of attraction. And so we will definitely be getting much more into the law of attraction next week. So he says, this is where we start to come into the law of attraction. We recognize that life is not happenstance. It's not accidental. It doesn't happen just by chance. Again, that there are universal laws at work. And we are participating now in that which appears to be happening to us by our thoughts, our beliefs, our opinions, our perceptions, our points of view, our words, and to the degree that we start to become aware of the power of these things, we begin to change our lives. How many of us have experienced that already? Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's at this stage that we begin using things like affirmations and denials and visualization and treasure mapping and journaling and declaration. And again, we're going to talk more about those tools next week. You know, this is the stage at which we start manifesting parking spots. Have you manifested a parking spot? Like, I manifest parking spots all the time. And I'm always like, yes. I just always feel like I'm in the flow, you know, and it's great. And this is the thing. I don't want to negate this in any way because this is a powerful place. And we're going to be, like for me, the manifestation aspect of life is always going to be a part of me, because we always have these things that are desiring to emerge as us. And so as we're moving into what we're going to call the through me and as me and into the visioning, we may have ideas that begin to emerge, but then it's our job to hold on to those ideas, to believe those ideas, to start putting some form and some shape around those ideas with our thoughts so that they can become part of our experience. So this is, again, there's no negating this at all. And in fact, I want you to have a lot of fun with this part of it. Now, okay, so one of the things that he shares with us about the manifestor stage, and he says that there are certain life structures that are stabilized, begin to become stabilized as we're working with the manifestor stage. So I want to tell you some of these. And he said the first one is our ego, and this is where we start to learn about our self-worth. We begin to recognize, and I love, as you were saying, that we're enough just as we are. That we're worthy. And we're worthy by virtue of the fact that we exist, that there's nothing we have ever done or ever could do that could ever change that. That aspect of self-love. We learn how to honor others and not to enter into competition or superiority or inferiority games. I always want to remind us that the ego just isn't some big wall. The ego is just as much in control when we're shrinking, when we're playing small. And we fall into a level of self-love and appreciation, and we confer that upon other people. We stabilize our livelihood. This would be divine right employment, a place of creativity and prosperity. We stabilize our relationships. Hear this: no one can make us happy. Did you know that? Did you make me so happy? Relationships can add to our happiness level, but there is not another person in the world that can make you happy. There's not another person in the world that can truly make you mad. And he says we mature and discover that relationships are an area in which we jointly participate in the field of love. I love that. Jointly participate. And then the life structure of our body temple. And we start to recognize and realize the importance of this body temple and the importance of its wholeness and its health and its vitality in order to be able to do what we are here to do, to allow to emerge God's idea of itself as us, as this body temple. And so we start to take better care of it. The financial life structure, we start to learn about money. And I love this, that money is a promissory note for energy, and that we don't spend money because when we spend money, it's gone, but rather we circulate energy in the form of money. And when we circulate energy in the form of money, it comes back to us, pressed down, shaken together, running over, and oozing out. That's right. That's right. And then we stabilize the structure called our beliefs. And we mature in our beliefs, and we start to move from just a belief to a realization where it becomes real and it moves down into our beingness, that it's no longer just a belief, it is. And that's a big important part of this stage. And also it stabilizes the life structure of community. And this is where we recognize that we are a valuable member of our community, and we are here to share our gifts, whatever they are. We participate in a community. It's no longer me, my tribe, my family, my neighborhood, my church. It now becomes I am a larger part of the whole, and I have gifts that I can share in some way, and I'm here to give these. And what he says is that as these structures become more solid, what we're going to find is that the ego has less and less and less control. Now recognize, you guys, the ego is not something that is bad. It's not something that is against you. Ego is simply it's what has been programmed in our consciousness. That's all it is. And we have the opportunity to reprogram it. And every time that we move a little deeper into something, that we have those ahas, that we remember who we are, and we do our spiritual work, then we recondition the mind pattern. And so that's all we're doing is reconditioning our mind patterns. But as we do that which we would call the ego, which is simply old stuff that's not true, we're not giving it energy. And so it doesn't have as much hold on us. Okay. Now, one of the things that he does say here is he cautions us not to get so caught up in the acquisitive nature, falling prey to consumerism, acquisition, that there's a danger in this particular stage because we can start becoming addicted, to that, to having to have stuff. And then what becomes our God is that. And, things are nice, aren't they? Yeah, it's okay. That's the thing is, you guys, this is not about not having nice things. For me, it's about recognizing, again, that our true happiness does not lie in things. Our true joy, our true joy and happiness doesn't lie in the things that are outside of us. Those can enhance our happiness. But if we think that's all it's about and those things go away, we've got nothing. And I think this is really where we see a lot of midlife crises, where people have acquired things in their life, they've reached a certain level in their life, but there's something more. And there's something that's wanting to emerge, but they can't figure that out. What is that? Because this stuff is no longer what is bringing me what I've been desiring all along. And so just be aware of that. I can tell you right now that man, I'm getting rid of a lot of stuff because I have acquired a lot of stuff in my life. And it's amazing when you start looking around and just going, I don't even need it. Half of it's just packed away. Why do I even have it? Let it go to somebody else. And yeah. Okay, so he tells us that we are becoming a candidate for an insight, that there's an order that we can depend on. We did not create this order. We are participants in this order. And by means of us, its desire is to express itself. By means of us, its desire is to express itself. And ours is simply to be willing to surrender our life to this order. And can we do that? Because sometimes we look at this word surrender and, we think of it as like giving up or, something bad is happening. But this act of surrender is one of the greatest things that you could ever do, is to surrender your life to God, surrender your life to Holy Spirit, surrender your life to love, surrender your life to all that is. Because I'm going to tell you, we're out there in so many ways and we're trying to make it happen. Because we've got our ideas how it should be, how my life should be, what should be going on. And to me, that's the beauty of what this visioning series is about, is because we ultimately move beyond this mind. And we move into the greater mind. And we open ourselves up. And we vary so with such a sense of humility, humbleness, I should say, and openness. We just say, what is God's idea of itself that is ready to emerge as me? Big difference, isn't it? Big difference. And so I'm going to invite us to say this together. I am willing to surrender my life to this order. I am willing to surrender my life to this order. Michael Beckwith says the butterfly does not contradict the caterpillar. The butterfly is the next stage of the caterpillar development, but at some point, the caterpillar must surrender to the impulse of transformation in it, in order to give birth to its next level. And I think we're ready to give birth to our next level. I think that we're ready to really, deepen our roots and to really move into a place where we're one with the allness that God is, and to get in tune with what is that is trying to emerge. Now, on Soulful Saturday this month, and I can't tell you off the top of my head when it is, because I'm changing this, we're going to do the visioning process of Michael Beckwith. I don't have my calendar, but I encourage you to come. It's from 10 to 12 on that Saturday morning. And Michael Beckwith, he walks us through this visioning, and it is powerful. So I think it's right before Easter, the 15th, yeah. See, it's great. We'll do it right before Easter. So we're all going to come in here and we'll be like, whoa, I've arisen. But mark your calendars for that. So we're going to close today. I want to first tell you that you are in the process of growing and unfolding. We all are. It's exciting. We're here to do this together and to be together and to support each other and to love each other. And what an exciting time, really, what an exciting time for us to be alive. So let's share in our affirmation together, and hopefully this will mean something different now. I am available to more good than I've ever experienced, imagined, manifested, or expressed before, and so it is. And namaste. Namaste. Namaste.